Hey guys! I've been requested to make this video over the last 2 years, and finally getting around to doing it. So this is going to be the first part of a two-part series that I'm going to be doing on magic and how it works. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about dragons, what they do, how to counter them, and how to pass them, etc, etc. I'm doing this one separately because I'm going to be talking about how to pass it, and it's going to be a lot longer than doing the rest of the magic, so those are going to be all clumped into a different video. So first part, we're going to be talking about what dragons do. When given a fire dragon, a 5-flame timer will appear over the player's head. Once the timer reaches 5 flames, a dragon will appear and knock the player down, causing them to roll. The timer lasts for roughly 7.5 seconds. Before the timer runs out and the dragon appears, the player may pass the timer over to another player. That player then continues the timer you already had. Example, if you had 5 flames and pass it to another player, they will keep those 5 flames and continue from there. Dragons can be passed multiple times from player to player, and no one is safe, not even your own teammates, so be careful who you give it to. Everything roughly stays the same for both of these types, including the timer, passing, etc, etc. The only difference is how hard you get hit. With a regular dragon, the player will fall to the ground and get back up. With a critical dragon, the player will fall to the ground, roll over twice before getting back up, and you lose any magic and gauge you had. This causes criticals to be a bit more menacing and thus causes more panic. You can tell the difference between the two by the color of the flames. Normal dragons have red and orange flames, and critical dragons have purple and blue flames. Passing a dragon can be a bit more troublesome, which is why I've been requested multiple times to make this video over the years, and I'm finally doing it, so sorry it's late. On the surface, it's as easy as touching the player, but it becomes a bit more complicated than that. You've got pro players who know how to avoid attempts at passing, and then you've got the R button. The R button is a reset for anyone who isn't aware. Basically, it jumps your avatar back a bit, helping you escape any danger you might be in. Example, an attempted dragon pass. Dragon passing can be troublesome and discouraging for a lot of players. I'm here to help as best I can, so let's begin. I'm going to start this off by saying something I know nobody's going to like. Practice. Practice constantly. Anytime you log on and hop in a room, practice. Here are some of my best tips on what to do when practicing. First, play magic singles for a while, because you're going to attempt to pass every dragon you get. Whether you're in first or last, I want you to do your best to pass it off. This is optional, of course, but if you're really dedicated to getting good at it, sacrifice wins to pass that dragon. So playing magic singles is your best bet, because now you've got 4 new enemies to pass that dragon to, and you won't have to worry about hurting friendlies. Second, and this is very important, never ever press R. I know this sounds extreme, but this is something I dedicated myself to and even now use pretty consistently. This is pretty important, and it's going to help you learn how to avoid taking one without losing your place in the race. It's a handicap indeed, and I'm not saying don't ever use it again, but it's really going to help you improve your gameplay drastically. This falls into my third tip: pay attention. I'm usually pretty attentive to what's going on around me using the tools the game gives me, like the player positions, minimap, the arrows, and especially the feed. Learning to utilize all of this will help. If you aren't able to look at every little detail, that's perfectly fine, and not exactly what I mean either. For example, players like to pass off a dragon they have to players already down and rolling. It's simple and easy, although a bit of a dick move, but it's super fun to do. So paying attention to the feed is going to tell you if someone has a dragon, then check the player positions to see if they're coming your way. This isn't always going to get you away from that sort of thing, but it is going to help. Slowdown. Slowdown is pretty simple and works when your target is close behind you. It's done by slowing down your horse and having them run right into you. Works best if they're pretty close to you and you just got the dragon. That way they don't have time to react. Reverse. This is pretty much the same as the last, except it's used when your target is a bit farther behind. It's done by stopping fully and backing up into them. To do this, you'll either have to be watching the map or holding C to look behind you, so if they try to move, you can move with them. Drift and dash. This is one of my personal favorites and can be used in almost any scenario. It's done by selecting your target, drifting, and then when they're lined up, turn and dash right into them. Pretty fun in my opinion. That leads me into what's not really a tip, but something everyone's wanting to know: how to 360 dragon pass. This is something I'm sure you've seen me do if you watched any of my beasting videos. And it's not really a useful skill in pretty much any situation, it's more something you do to show off. However, it's a fun way to catch people off guard and spice up the race. You need to be very attentive when doing this in teams, and it only works if you have a good distance between you and your target/targets because of how wide a turn you'll be taking. It's easy to make sharp turns in the game, but only with enough speed, and with each turn, you lose more and more speed. So this has to be done with a bit of room on the track and enough momentum. But the basic idea is to drift into a 180, face your target head on, and ride straight for them. This gives you an advantage of being able to block them from swerving out of the way because you can just swerve right back into them. Plus, it's hard to gauge how much time they have before you run into them, so most people don't even react to time. This is a tricky and hard skill and usually only works about 50% of the time for me, although I don't really get enough chance to practice it that often. But it's one of those things you have to fully commit to and be alright with whatever outcome you get. And before we move on to the final tips and info, I would like to point out that you will look stupid. I never even wanted to attempt dragon passes because I knew if I failed, I'd look like an even bigger idiot than if I just accepted death. But you'll never get better like that, which is why I recommend trying to pass every dragon you have. You'll get better quicker than you think that way, and the more confidence you get, the better you'll become. So we're moving on to the final tips and tricks that I have. Those were my main tips, and now we'll be talking about other things that might help you. When someone in front of you is given a dragon, stay directly behind them unless your avatar blocks them from your view, then move slightly to the side. Just make sure that you're far enough away so that if they slow down, you'll have enough time to react before anything bad happens. Since I've taken away your R button privileges, it's important to know how to drift. You should know how to do at least 2 kinds of drifting. There are 3. Knowing how to bunny hop, which is a speed skill, is also going to be useful. That will allow you to jump out of the way and also make a turn at the same time. It takes practice, but it's very useful. Another important thing to note is after the dragon reaches 5 flames, you still have about a second to pass it off. As long as the dragon hasn't appeared, you've got a chance. When you use a shield to block a dragon, you'll want to wait until those 5 flames appear to use it. You can use it at 4, but you'll make it just barely, and if your horse's agility is too low, it won't work at all, and you'll have to wait until those 5 flames appear. If you get given a dragon, don't panic, check the timer, and wait patiently. I see a lot of times people panic and use the shield as soon as they see that dragon. I used to do the same. So try and keep your cool. Once you pass player a dragon, get out of there, because while there is a short grace period for it to not be passed back, that doesn't last long at all and you need to get out as fast as possible. On that same note, if you're past one, move away a tiny bit so you're no longer touching, then turn back into them. The grace period will be gone and you can pass it right back before they even get away. Predict their movement. As an example, this clip is from an older beasting video of mine. I didn't even have to look at the map to know they were turning. It's a lot easier to predict players' movements after you've been playing for a while though, so don't stress over it. Finally, when the dragon head shows up and you're about to perish, jump twice. This will lessen the effects of the attack and you'll get up much quicker. So this is about all the tips and tricks that I have for this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. You guys can join my Discord server, link is going to be in the description. And you can join that and ask me there. Just feel free to let me know what you guys need to know.